to go into a little housekeeping for the day. Firstly, the washrooms are to my left, your right. In addition to that, there will be no eating or drinking within the interior of the National Cultural Center. If you would like, you can kindly step outside. And lastly, and most importantly, kindly place all your cellular devices on silent or vibrate. That would be most appreciated. We now move into the opening remarks, which will be done by Mr. Darrell Raymond, who is the chairman of the St. Lucia Development Bank.
Please allow me to adopt the protocol that was just established, except to say a special good morning to the Senior Minister in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ports, Transport, Physical Development, and Urban Renewal, Honorable Stephenson King, members of the Board of Directors of the St. Lucia Development Bank, the Chief Engineer in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Mrs. Renata Filgens-McKee, other senior officials of the government of St. Lucia, esteemed contractors, and other key players in the construction sector. Good morning all. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to welcome everyone to this special Contractors Symposium being held under the theme, Fostering Synergy, Shaping More Progressive, Efficient, and Sustainable Contractors. Firstly, please allow me to express my sincere gratitude to the Ministry of Infrastructure and specifically Senior Minister King for supporting and collaborating with the St. Lucia Development Bank in bringing today's symposium to fruition. Indeed, such a collaborative effort demonstrates that by working in harmony, government agencies can effectively leverage each other's core competencies to achieve the ultimate goal of spurring sustainable socio-economic development in our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, this symposium has brought together contractors from all over the island to partner with key suppliers, technical experts, and other industry leaders to discuss a wide range of topics, all geared towards improving the quality and sustainability of our nation's infrastructure. We all appreciate that the construction sector is dynamic and ever evolving. Therefore, our contractors must remain abreast with best practices on issues such as occupational health and safety, procurement and supply chain management, climate resilience and sustainability, quality control and assurance strategies, and project management techniques. A thorough appreciation of these key issues is critical in ensuring that our contractors grow in their capacity to deliver both public and private infrastructure projects of the highest quality and of global standards. Today, we are fortunate to have a lineup of distinguished presenters and speakers who will share their knowledge and experience and place our contractors in the best possible position to be successful. Ladies and gentlemen, the St. Lucia Development Bank is mandated to play a critical role in spurring the proposed infrastructure revolution on our island. Indeed, the government of St. Lucia has unequivocally espoused the policy position that this year is the year of infrastructure. Underpinning the successful execution of this ambitious infrastructural agenda is ensuring that our contractors have access to the necessary liquidity and working capital to effectively execute the planned infrastructure projects. This is where the SLDB comes in. This is our role. This is our responsibility. This is our mandate. The St. Lucia Development Bank has a long and proud history of providing bridging loan facilities to support infrastructural projects executed by both central government and other statutory agencies. Since our re-establishment, the SLDB has mobilized resources and disbursed approximately 1,187 bridging finance facilities at a cumulative value of over $41 million. In many instances, these facilities have been granted relatively unsecured, backed by the strength of the assigned government contracts. We have operated based on an unwavering trust in the capacity of our local contractors and the diligence and capacity of the technical supervision teams who ensure that the projects are delivered within budget and within time parameters. Indeed, for the most part, our faith and confidence has been well placed. Indeed, in our portfolio, our bridging finance represents probably the lowest levels of default. So we continue to trust you and we continue to work with you. We are now called upon to expand and improve our efforts in this area. This is a responsibility we take seriously. Now more than ever, our contractors require timely and efficient financial support at fair rates of interest. As a bank, we have reflected, we have strategized, and we have put forward key policy adjustments to meet your needs. We have strategically reviewed and reduced our rates of interest on bridging finance loans. We have fine-tuned our factoring arrangements to allow our contractors and service providers to receive early payments on outstanding receivables from different employers. So no longer must our contractors and service providers wait extensive periods of time for payment. We will pay you and take the risk of getting repaid from reputable employers. We have devised a very attractive revolving line of credit of up to $500,000 to allow our contractors to have a continuous source of cash flow to seamlessly execute contractual arrangements. These products will be further expanded upon as our team presents later in the symposium. Despite these interventions and these policy adjustments, we appreciate that there is more work to do. The SLDB appreciates that we must double our efforts. We must be more time-sensitive, responsive, and customer-centric in meeting the needs of our contractors and our customer base. We pledge to operate with greater flexibility and innovation and partner with you while remaining true at all times to the principles of proper banking, prudence, and responsible lending. Ladies and gentlemen, the construction sector is a key component to economic growth and prosperity. This is especially the case in small island developing states such as St. Lucia. In 2023, construction activity accounted for an impressive 5.5% of our real GDP, with the construction sector growing in that year by 19%. This is extraordinary performance. From all indications, the construction sector is expected to grow and expand even further in this financial year. Therefore, it is incumbent on all of us to play our part in enhancing the overall efficiency and output of the sector. Forums such as this provide a platform to achieve this objective. Once again, I wish to welcome everyone, and I look forward to a highly successful and productive symposium. I thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Raymond. And before we proceed, I need to rectify a very grave error on my part for missing out someone who has been very integral for us being here today, and that is none other than our Chief Engineer, Mrs. Renata Philogen McKee. So she is officially being added to the protocol list before we move any further. Fostering synergy, shaping more progressive, efficient, and sustainable contractors. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the theme for our Contractors Symposium today. And throughout the day, you will hear from various speakers, presenters, as well as business owners, just how much you can play a part and how much the government, as well as SLDB as the financial entity, can play a part in ensuring that we lean towards the year of infrastructure. Now, Mr. Raymond mentioned that the government has taken a policy position, and a very stern one at that, as it relates to the year of infrastructure. And we have someone to speak on that, and that is none other than the Minister himself, Honorable Stephen King, Minister for Infrastructure, Ports, Transport, Physical Development, and Urban Renewal. Minister?
Thank you very much, Madam Mistress of Ceremonies. I noticed you dropped a piece of my name. I hope it wasn't lost in the election last night. But permit me this opportunity this morning to recognize the HIB table and the Chief Engineer, Mrs. Renata McKee, the Chairman of the St. Lucia Development Bank, Mr. Darrell Raymond, the Director of Procurement. I hope I have your designation correct, sir. I want to welcome you, and I'm not too sure that I recognize the lady to the end. But permit me to recognize the entire head table, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Managing Director of the St. Lucia Development Bank, Mr. Sidoni, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning to you. While the chairman was delivering his address, Mr. Raymond, I contemplated for a moment of this whole initiative. And it brought me back to a visit, if I should say, a request made by the managing director. It may have been a year or probably more, some time ago, when he sought an official visit to me at the Department of Physical Development. And at that meeting, he solicited the support of the government to direct contractors to the bank based on the quality of services that they offer to contractors and others. Of course, the first thing I did was to call the chief engineer to get an appreciation of how they proceed in either counseling or guiding contractors when they're given contracts within the Department of Infrastructure, particularly small contractors who often not organized, don't have the experience, but sometimes taking the baby steps as to how they are directed to access funding in this country. And I proposed to her that there's a need to direct those contractors, and I said to her, I'm very biased in that I believe that the St. Lucia Development Bank was established for a particular reason, a particular purpose, and that is to facilitate development within the St. Lucian population and to help St. Lucians advance through that sort of service being provided. So when I informed the chief engineer, she insisted that it wasn't the role of the Department of Infrastructure to guide people to any financial institution or the other. And I said to her, the fact that the government of St. Lucia took an initiative to establish a development bank was an intention, a demonstrative intention, that the government of St. Lucia was totally committed to the people's development through financing. And in the conversation, the idea came about having a symposium to bring contractors together, to get a feel of the environment, and to give a firm commitment of the services being provided by the bank, the St. Lucia Development Bank, which really is the people's bank, the bank that the government has established and supported by governments, successive governments, ever since it was re-established sometime in 2007, 2008. It has been supported, and today I'm proud to hear the chairman's report, or his address, in which he has indicated the tremendous contribution that the bank has made through making capital available to contractors as they pursue their assignment of fulfilling contracts in this country. So I want to commend the managing director and his team. He came with a team of women who joined him in putting forward the case at the first meeting, and I believe by the time he left, he didn't sell it to me. I was already bought on the idea, but I think the chief engineer was bought on it also, and others who had attended the meeting. I'm proud to note that this is the fruit of that first initiative of dialoguing and agreeing that there's a need to facilitate St. Lucian contractors in the construction industry. I am very proud of it because I believe that we must stand with our own and we must give support to our own, and hence the reason I believe this is most important. I have looked at the agenda, and I'm also proud to see the first item on the agenda, which will be addressed by the chief engineer, and that is the issue of project management. In many instances, and I really hope that along the way, we will really organize a session for what I call petty or micro contractors who really need that guidance and counseling as they immerse themselves into the construction industry. What we have today is an industry that many are entering without formal training or formal education. They are not engineers, they are not architects, they are not electricians, they are not really in there, but they've seen an opportunity to enter into the industry and to provide a service that they believe that they can profit on. But in many instances, while they may have some talent, they may be a mason or carpenter, electrician, plumber, and they believe that they can get into the industry and succeed. There's some basic understanding that is required that many of them don't see in the implementation of their projects. And one of the most significant components of that is that of project management. I often say to contractors, when a project or a contract is awarded to you at a fixed cost, the longer you stay on that project, the more costly it becomes. Because you have your workers to pay, whether by the hour or by the day, it's going to cost you money. You've got to understand how well or how efficient can you manage the resources that you have, whether it's financial resources or human resources or otherwise, to be able to move into the execution of the contract without wasting any time. So you shouldn't have on a project, at the commencement of the project, individuals you don't need on that project. And I hope the chief engineer will agree with me when she speaks. Because sometimes some contractors would get, and it happens particularly with petty contractors, they would bring a full workforce on site to commence the project, only to find that half of them, they are not needed. So project management is very important, to be able to get that project moving efficiently, effectively, and to be delivered within time so as to move on to another project. I believe this is absolutely important for those who are in the industry. The other aspect is that of health and safety. Only this morning I had to caution a particular contractor, and I'll not tell you where, when I experienced last night an incident, and I said to him, you guys must understand that part of your responsibility is not only to execute the contract and manage it, but also to guarantee health and safety on the job. Those who are working, those who probably will encounter you while you work, and to ensure that everyone is safe while you are executing that project. Many believe that you get onto a work site, you start working, at the end of the day, you just leave the work site as a working place and come back the next day and continue, rather than to accept the fact that in some instances, the environment within which you're working is also either an environment that is actively being used by the occupants of the facility, if it's a facility that you are refurbishing or otherwise. Quality control is another one. We need to ensure that in executing projects that we maintain quality. And I must tell you that this year I have insisted, and I've been speaking to the chief engineer, while we recognize 2024 as the year of infrastructure, within the Department of Infrastructure, there's even a bigger picture. A bigger picture in that recently we launched a program, what I call a 6-year program, called Infrastructure 2030. And 2030, Infrastructure 2030, is not just a tagline. It is a bold strategic initiative within the Department of Infrastructure to look at policies, look at legislation, look at protocols, look at standards, and to ensure that we improve on those standards. In this country, we have a deficit in infrastructure, not only in the integrity of our infrastructure, the aging integrity of our infrastructure, but also as the world turns and technology unfolds, we are lagging behind in terms of our methodologies, etc., etc. And one area that I'm truly concerned about is that of quality and standards. I have said the materials laboratory at the Ministry of Infrastructure, the Department of Infrastructure, must be enhanced, and I'm speaking to the government of Taiwan with the hope that next year that they will give us some technical assistance and financial assistance and partnering with us in terms of enhancing the materials unit, laboratory unit, so as to get our contractors and all to understand in construction there are standards to be upheld. And so you have to test the materials that you use, you have to test the mixes that you use, and to ensure that there are standards. Within the department itself, we must set some standards. We must be able to say, what are the standards? What are the codes? The Department of Physical Development is currently enhancing the regulations within the department, and soon it will be published, of changing building codes that will be introduced to ensure that we don't just simply speak about codes that will be able to withstand hurricanes, but also codes that will make our structures a lot safer. So there's quite a bit to be done. And on top of it all, what is required is an efficient financing organization that can respond to your need. I must indicate that for the many petty contractors, you big guys, you don't trouble me, but for the small contractors, those young guys who are coming into the system, who probably don't even understand what they're using, what they're doing, to give them that opportunity, I must indicate that the Development Bank has been very exemplary in giving that support service to those petty contractors. There's a lady there inside there, I'll not mention her name, but she's very agile, being after them, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and giving them that guidance and that support, which is most important to those small contractors. So I do hope that today's activity, which is intended to foster synergies between government, between the financial institution, contractors, and to bring that synergy together, big contractors, small contractors, petty contractors, in that shaping that we're talking about, of shaping more progressive, efficient, and sustainable contractors. But most of all, creating an environment, an enabling environment that will allow your sector to prosper and to grow beyond what it is today. In many instances, one of the biggest problems we have, while we have associations for architects and engineers, electrical or otherwise, as contractors, we do not have a body of contractors to say, this is a representative body. If there's one that I don't know of, I'm sorry, but I believe that is something we need to do, because people must be participating in this thing. Too often we tend to be a little selfish and don't want to share ideas, don't want to counsel others, don't want to uplift others. But then we must create that environment, and the government has a role also to be able to create an environment in which people have the trust and the confidence in the system, that it is transparent, that you have nothing to do. Many people sort of, they get nervous when you say to them that they've got to tender on a project. Many of them, the small ones, will say the number of copies they've got to make of the contract or the tender document, it costs them money, and by the time they submit it, they've lost all this money, $1,000, $2,000. So we need to look at that and see how can we create an environment that will allow all to survive, whether you're small, medium, or large. But I believe this is a good first step, and I'm very confident that with the St. Lucia Development Bank and its leadership, from the chairman to the managing director and staff of the bank, I do believe that they are sincere, they are focused, they understand the mission before them, and they're doing what is necessary to get you to participate and to join with the government in attempting to make sure that the enabling environment is in place and that your own structures are there to give you the necessary support. So I want to thank you very much. I want to thank the chief engineer and others who have pulled this together, and I look forward to seeing much more coming out of this first initiative. I thank you.
Thank you once again, Honorable Minister. And just a gentle reminder, we kindly ask if you can keep all your cellular devices on silent or mute for the duration of this program. And as the Honorable Minister mentioned, we have a project management segment, which is actually our first segment coming up, and this will be conducted by our Chief Engineer, Mrs. Renata Philogen-McKee. And I guess I'll leave it to her to speak about project management as it relates to infrastructure, because that is not my department. So just like you, I am looking to learn a lot for this segment. Ms. McKee?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Allow me to adopt the protocol which was established earlier. However, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of you who have made today a priority to attend this symposium. And thank you to the planning team, the committee between SLDB and my staff. I know you have been working tirelessly to ensure that today is what it is. And the place look lovely. So you've done a great job. Presenting first, it has its advantages because in a few minutes I could relax. It also has disadvantages because now you're alert and you're expecting a lot of me. So I will see how I could present on project management in about 15 minutes. That sounds difficult, right? But I will see what I can do with the time allotted to me. Just before I dive into the presentation, I would like to ask you a question this morning. How many of you have worked on a project, whether it's personal or in your professional capacity, and a lot of things did not go as you wanted it to? And if you have to think for a bit and just summarize it into maybe a few words, how would you call that project? Maybe the Great Wall or the Never-Ending Project. How would you call that project? And if one person just think about it a while, and if one person wants to share with me how you called that project that did not go very well. How did you call it? Pyramid. Is that what you said? Okay, so pyramid. Anybody else want to share their project name that did not go too well? One more? Disaster. Okay, so we label our projects based on the outcome of it sometimes. It's a disaster, it's the never-ending project, it's the pyramid, it just keeps going, and we know how a pyramid is. You start somewhere and it just keeps extending, so another disaster. But project management have some key tools that could help avert those pyramids, disasters, and never-ending projects. The outline of my presentation this morning, I will look at understanding project management in construction, St. Lucia's contractor landscape, key project management strategies, project management challenges in St. Lucia, of course, synergy through collaboration, which is what we're doing today. We want to collaborate with contractors, financing agencies, engineers, and I must say I'm happy to see so many of my project management team here this morning, my staff of Department of Infrastructure. It's wonderful to see so many of you here this morning. Tools for better project management, sustainable practices in project management, progressive and efficient project delivery, shaping the future, and of course, to end with our call to action. This definition seemed very long on project management, but I would like to just pull out the key words here: planning, organization, So organizing your company's resources or your resources as a contractor. You don't have to be a company to have responsibility over a project. So your specific tasks. So it's looking at specific tasks. So if I have to just summarize that lengthy worded definition here, project management is the process of organizing resources like people, money, and technology to complete a specific task or an ongoing activity. So all of this, that is what project management is. So you have your resources, your finances, you have technology, the knowledge that you bring to the table, experience, all of this for you to complete this task. There are a few steps that we have to look at in project management. But some of us, sometimes we think project management commences after we've signed the contract. But that is far from the case. Your project management actually starts from initiation. So from the time the concept is there, the feasibility study is done, you have project management commencing. There is the planning stage. In that planning stage is where you create detailed schedules, your budget, your risk assessment to guide the project. In the execution phase, that is step 3, is where you have to mobilize your team. So now you look at who would I have on this team for me to do this project efficiently and successfully for everybody. And remember, all stakeholders, all of you have a stake in it, that you want to see the project completed, and you want to see it completed within your cost, of course, the budget. You have the monitoring and control phase. That's where my team would come in again, and some of you are project managers yourselves because you have your own project management team. So it is not just the client's team, but you have your team as well. That's why you would track your progress. You manage the changes in the project. So sometimes the contractor may propose a change, it is discussed, it is to the benefit of the project, so you have a change, so you manage your changes, because you don't want too many changes that would throw off your budget, because it is like a triangle. If you pull one side, another side is impacted. So if you make too many changes, of course it would affect something. It would affect your cost, it would affect your project time, your deliverable. And then you have your closure, where you complete the final task, document your results, you document your lessons learned, because you certainly want the good lessons to proceed to your next project, and the lessons that were not so good, you want to ensure that you avoid having those issues again. So you have to document the good ones, you have to also document the bad ones. We shake on it. For some persons, you have a drink, you celebrate, there's ribbon cutting, that's where senior minister comes, very excited, prime minister, cut ribbon, project is complete, the community is happy. Or your client if you're doing a residential project, because you don't only have projects with the government. So isn't that what we all look forward to? That final step. But before we get there, we have to pass through 1 to 4 before we get to the closure. Let's look at what is important to our contractors. So in the first one, we look at ensure timely project delivery, boosting contractor reliability and reputation. This should be a main focus for the contractor, because this could lead to more contract opportunities. So if you see this as important to you, it would lead to more contract opportunities, and it will also establish dependability in the eyes of your client as well as your partners, because some of you may partner with other persons, and if they realize they cannot rely on you, what you brought, you the weak link, of course, you may not get that opportunity, that joint venture again. Number 2, controlling costs. Now, controlling costs may be a difficult thing. And to control costs, you know you have to control it, because if you take funding for the project, you need to show your deliverables, where you're at. Even when you're constructing your home, the quantity surveyor have to come and verify before the bank will release funds for the next phase. Isn't that correct? So you've done your substructure, you need to move on, but if you've misspent it, if you've misallocated it, you cannot prove that you can get the fund. So you may have to get it from elsewhere until you reach that level that the fund was intended for. So effective cost management helps maximize your profitability as well. How much profit you make. Some people tell you they did not make anything on this project. It is a fact. But did they put things in place to ensure that they made a profit? Or they just come and say, I spent all of this, but is there, maybe you could have approached the project in a different manner, so you spent less on that activity, so you actually make the profit. I remember one time, there was an individual doing a project and came back to me and said the client did not want to pay because the client said the formwork was used formwork. But is that the client's business? You have to cost for your formwork, but whether you take it from a previous project or not, that was not the client's place to say you brought used formwork to the site. But you get all of these situations when you are managing projects. Maintaining quality is also essential, and that is the third point here on this slide. Delivering high quality results builds trust with clients. And your name, not for instance this morning, yes, I was introduced as Chief Engineer Renata Philogene McKee, but the Chief Engineer part is the post. My name is Renata Philogene McKee. So your name is what is your highest accolade. That's what should represent you. So when you have that relationship, you deliver high quality, then persons know you by that name, and then you get your referrals. So you have to ensure that you can give quality work, and that will enhance your reputation for excellence. Quality work not only ensures the project success, but also makes the contractor a preferred choice for future projects. There are some contractors, when you tell them, like, not this person again, but there are some you like, why you keep some, Minister may ask, why you keep asking that contractor? I hope Minister not hearing too good this morning. Why you keep putting that contractor's name? But it's because you know this person will deliver. You can call that person rain, shine, storm, and that person will deliver. And there are some you call and you have to be at them, and they tell you they're starting, and you add them. And when they do start, you still add them. So you don't want to see that name, although the name will come up. So make your name so you can be the preferred contractor. Now, our St. Lucia's contractor landscape, Minister mentioned it when he spoke earlier. He mentioned our petty contractors. We have small contractors, we have medium contractors, and we have those we call the large contractors. So under our small contractors, we look at those persons who will handle residential works, minor infrastructure works. Under the medium, these contractors can tackle things that are more substantial because you have financing you can put in there, you have more resources, you have more equipment. You don't just have a barrow and a shovel, you have more things that you can put into this project. You have resources. And we have our large-scale contractors who will do the bigger projects like 40 kilometers of road, airport, hospital projects, hotel projects, and all of these you can actually bid on this because you have the capacity. Now, even if you're a medium contractor, that does not mean you cannot do a joint venture with a larger contractor. And that is where I find a lot of our local contractors, I would say they fail. I don't know if it is you watching your territory, but you're afraid to do the joint venture. So if you know you're strong in concrete, the project has concrete works, it has asphalt work, you could partner with somebody. You focus on the concrete, your partner focuses on the asphalt, both of you do that part very well, you have a successful project. But if you try on your own, you don't meet the criteria at times for you to qualify or pre-qualify for you to get that contract. So sometimes it makes sense for you to have those relationships. There's rituals, there are other places. Have a business meeting, see who you can work with. I see that young people are studying. I don't see contractors using those places and relaxing and meeting other persons so they too can grow. So it is something that you can think about as well. So of course we have challenges in everything. Even if you want to manage your project at the best, there will be challenges. So contractors in St. Lucia often encounter significant hurdles in projects, and some of these are listed here. These are not all the challenges. Like I said, this is a 15-minute presentation. So that's just a few of the challenges that you would experience. So resource constraints, limited materials, skilled labor shortages, and these days I find it very difficult to get workers at any level. Whether it is laborers, you get some laborers, you have to call them akupi at the end of the day because all they do is akupi. They don't want to push the barrow. They don't want to use the rake. They don't want to do anything. Anybody have a laborer they have to give a name? Just raise your hand if you did. You don't have to tell me how you call your laborer. But you have some who don't want to do anything, but they want to work. And some of them are related to you. And you try to give them a help and they come and you figure, I cannot give you money, but I'll hire you. But what do you get? It is difficult to get good workers. It is at every level. At every level, professional, laborer, whatever it is. And the disrespect package they bring to you sometimes is another challenge. They feel entitled. So they would disrespect you. But you are my employee and you have to do this because this is what I hired you for. We have regulatory delays. So sometimes you go to planning, you go to infrastructure, you call in me, you call the minister calling me. Chief, see if you can put that fast. You just sent it yesterday too sometimes. But anyway, you call and you want it fast because you need to have this. You need to have your insurance in place. You need to have this in place before we can tell you go ahead to start. You want to get your mobilization fee, but you don't have anything in place. Okay? So you want to have it, but what did you put in place? You want to get advance payment, but you need to put a bank guarantee. You don't have funds to secure that bank guarantee in case you didn't finish my project, but you want the money to start the project. So all of these things you have to think of, you have to plan before you take on projects at that scale. Cash flow management, you're given the cash. I am a St. Lucian born and raised, proud to be. And I know sometimes people take cash from one project, they then spend it on another project, and they're thinking tomorrow I'll get a next project, I will use it there. They go on vacation already. Everybody go on vacation from that money. And you will leave my house without cupboard doors, without tiles, because you didn't get that other project you were expecting to finish my house. Isn't that true to sometimes contractors? So you need to manage the funds. So don't count your eggs that you have not received and say that, I will get that next job, I will finish Mrs. Mackey's house. And you didn't get it for some reason, and you vex with the person who did not give you the project. You vex with that person because you really thought it was yours, and lastly, they change their mind. People change their minds. Because when you're doing something, you could have 3 ideas, and you may just go with the 4th idea. And that 4th idea does not include getting the contractor anymore. Okay, and St. Lucians like could me. And then they tell you the house falling, the wall falling. But they don't want to pay the contractor. So that too, so you may not get that job because they get a cousin who is related to another cousin and another cousin who came and do it for them, and you didn't get the job. And of course, it rains and rains and rains, so weather related. So if you delay in starting the project, or we delay in getting the funds to tell you go ahead and all of this, by the time you start, it may be rainy season and you have a challenge as well. Now, for small contractors, where should your focus be? Your focus should be on your time management. Time management for you is important. Your project is not very big. The scope may not be very big. Your timeline is short, maybe 2 weeks. Time management is very important when you're a small contractor. Strict cost control. As much as you know all the boys on the block in the community and everybody and your sister child and all of them, you cannot hire everybody on your project. You just cannot. And efficient use of a small skilled team. And I heard that this morning. Skill team. Small contractors, so you get skill team. So what you will have is that persons are doubling up. The same person who is the mason is the same person who is also doing other jobs on that project. So your mason driving the truck, he has to be there, he go and take the material. So you double up, but you have to plan it in such a way that it does not throw you off your time. Medium contractors, of course, improve risk management and quality assurance. So you have higher risk now as a medium contractor. So improve management practices and ensure quality assurance to handle larger projects and build a solid reputation. So you want to go onto the larger project, but you remember you have to build your reputation as well. So that should be your focus also. And we have our large contractors. Our large contractors now, your prioritized stakeholders. Now you have meetings where you dress nicely, you dress sharp, and you sit down and you have papers in front of you and you discussing things. Now the small contractor may have a diary recording thing. The medium contractor, now you're going into other things. You have to think of your project management tools and software. Now you start to speak a different kind of language. Now you don't have to know that language yourself, but hire somebody who can speak the language, and that person will do it for you. If you have competence, you don't even have to know how to build a house for you to have a project to build one. Are you aware of that? If you have the skilled persons hired. So you have the idea, you have the funding, you want to go into this, but hire the right people who can do it for you. And of course, why we're here today, another example of building synergies through collaboration. Who you know, who you work with. We have the banks that we have to work with. You need funding. And if you don't have a good reputation with the bank, you did not manage the funds properly, the next project, you go into a next bank. And the next time, a next one. And the next time, a next financial, until you don't have anywhere to go again. And you want advance payment. And you want, what, mobilization. And my QS is here too. What else they want, Sipal? All of these things, because you cannot go to the bank, but you want to start, and you're in a hole, and you want to come out of that hole. But if you put yourself in a hole, sometimes it is so hard to come out of that hole, because you're expecting a big payday, but the financial agency take that big payday from you, because you didn't pay them the last time. So you have to be careful of that. So as you build synergy, as you build that collaboration, the relationship, make sure it is sound, make sure it is reputable, and make sure you have relationships also with engineers, architects, persons that you can go to rely on. That is very important. Like I said, as you go up to the large scale contractor, you have to now look at things you put in place. So we have our budgeting software. So you need to know how you budget it and what you put that. And you also need to have your communication platform. So as a small contractor, all you need is a cell phone with WhatsApp, and you can communicate. I am here, I am there, look the thing there, that one come in there. But as you go up, you cannot rely on just WhatsApp. So you need Microsoft Teams, you need this other software called Slack. It's a team communication software where you can share videos, you could share you could have conversation with the persons directly on your team. You can work on something jointly. So while I'm on site for you, I can see already if you've made a change and something is there. I don't have to come to the office. So you have to think now of giving your site staff a tablet they can use and whatever. So if you don't want to spend the money there, then you're wasting time. They have to come to the office, you have to send a driver, you have to do this, they have to go in traffic, and then you say, Lucia, I have too much traffic, but Jay, so long I call him. But if you put things in that you don't have to leave the site, it can happen with those software. So think of this as well. Spend the money there so you can make more, you can have it more efficient. So we have progressive and efficient project delivery. If we look at the first one here, it says start small, scale fast. So you start small, but you want to go up quickly. That's what it means there. Start small, scale fast. So begin with manageable projects, tasks that you can do. And sometimes you have a laborer, and right away they see you do a wall and they think they're a contractor too. See me say Safesa too. So they want to do it too. They come and look for their own project. And now they're competing with you because you don't have an association. So everybody figure, the perception is once I see you do it, I can do it too. So you now have to begin with things you can manage and quickly expand as project progresses and your needs increase. So as your needs increase, you start with a barrow, needs increase, you get a little van. So you don't have to pay to carry the block. Some things you can put in that van. Then you go up, don't scale too quickly, but you need to see where the wind blows, like they say sometimes. Continuous learning. Learning never stops. Every day you learn something new. Don't think that you know all of this and start telling people, when I was doing whatever project I did, that things have changed. So do not stay stuck in what happened yesterday and you don't want to move with the time. You have to learn, regularly assess the situations, regularly assess the lessons that you learn from the project, and you need to improve. Allow these lessons to improve you. Sometimes errors can cost life immediately, but sometimes an error gives you another opportunity to do it better. So you come back and do it quicker. So you need to document the lessons learned. Lean construction. Now what is lean construction? Lean construction, I referred to it earlier when I said you need for the team that can multitask. That team minimize waste and optimize resources. The resources used to improve efficient and reduce costs. So the lean team, if you have a lean team, it means you have a team of persons who, like 3 persons, but that one is a jack of all trades, that one can do things and do it well. So you have a lean team. So don't hire too many people on your team. And you need to stay flexible and adjust your plans based on project development to meet goals effectively. That's our last point here, adaptive strategies. So you need to adapt. Sometimes we have situations where you live in a vulnerable area where your house is. You may not be able to move the house, but you need to adapt. So you will put a wall, you put a drain here, you put this here. So you need to also adapt when you are managing your projects. Shaping the future for construction in St. Lucia. By embracing efficient project management techniques and fostering a collaboration between contractors in St. Lucia, we can deliver better projects. We can deliver these projects at a faster pace, and we can deliver it more sustainable. And sustainable is doing a project today but thinking of our future. So you're doing it today, but you don't want to reinvent the wheel later. So the future generation can build on what we have designed, and they don't have to just break it down. So we want sustainable projects, and we want reliable projects, projects that could adapt to our environment, and projects that can stay within our resources. And now we look at our call to action. With all the information we've heard here today, what is next? What do we do? So the call to action now is continue that discussion and apply these strategies to upcoming projects. So embrace innovation. Commit to continuous learning. That is the call I want to give you this morning. So embrace innovation, encourage adoption of new technologies. Commit to continuous learning. So when there are workshops, and I'm happy to see, like I said, all of you here today, if there's a workshop, if there's something for, send a staff member if you cannot make it yourself. So continuous learning is important. We left school with something, but the more you practice is better. Strengthen communication. I want to leave you with that call this morning. Strengthen communication. Sometimes I find contractors unreliable because they do not communicate. If you tell somebody, I'm going to start the project on Monday, don't just assume they didn't see you so they know you didn't get the money to start. Communicate. I couldn't come, I couldn't do this. Reliable. And focus on sustainability. This is one, and my last one I want to leave with you for the call to action is build strong partnership. Create alliances with other contractors, suppliers, government entities so you can leverage and do bigger things, better projects. So that I want to leave you with, and I thank you for your attention this morning and for being present today. Taking questions? You taking questions? No? Okay.
Didn't I tell you this segment would have been insightful? How many of you have learned anything new? Whether it's just something... No? Okay, I see Mr. Sipal raising his hand. Anybody else? Okay, a few hands. That makes it very convenient for me because then if I didn't see any hands, then I would not be able to do a giveaway. Yeah? Start small, scale fast, and adapt. Those were some words that resonated with me personally from Mrs. McKee's presentation. But I think I'm missing one or two more. So if there is one contractor out there that can give me another one, because she did name a few, call to action and a few takeaway points. If one contractor can name another one, I believe you will be getting a little something from the St. Lucia Development Bank. Elsa, I think we have some bags there. Can you just raise one for me so they know I'm not lying? Ooh. See, so y'all believe me now. So just a quick raise of hand, you can just shout the answer. In addition to starting small and scaling fast as well as adapting, can you give me one other pointer that Mrs. McKee mentioned? Okay, I see a first hand. Well, that's a bit broad. I needed to be a little bit more specific. That was the topic. Okay, I see another. Collaboration. Do we all agree? Okay. So we have a winner. Elsa. And we need a little photo op too, so I hope all relevant parties know where you are. Kindly stand. Thank you. And we actually, yes, give him a round of applause. And we actually have a lot more giveaways, but we decided to keep that out of the advertising because we wanted you to come here of your own free will and not be incentivized. So thank you all once again for coming. And we're moving forward. We actually are now proceeding to our second segment, and this is going to be speaking to assessing bill of quantities. Again, no idea. So hopefully, Mr. Peter Sapal can give me a bit more insight, and I'll be taking notes, so I hope you are going to be taking notes as well, because you never know. Mr. Sapal?
Thank you very much, and good morning again to everyone. Okay, I'm all set. I have my trusty little remote. I am a little afraid because I am presenting right after my chief engineer, and I do not think that I can keep her momentum going, but I am happy that it is still early in the morning and everyone will still be wide awake as we talk about the bill of quantities. Not the most exciting of topics, but maybe there is something you can gather from it today. So in mentioning the bill of quantities, I can mention to you that The origin of it is maybe around the 19th century UK, during the time of the Industrial Revolution. The industry professionals felt that the architects, the contractors, we needed a standardized method of assessing and quantifying materials, labor, and so on. And this is what gave birth to the Bill of Quantities as we know it. So some 200, 300 years in the making, we are still having difficulties just like they did 200 years ago. Is that correct? I see some people saying yes, some saying no. Hopefully after today, we will not have any of that, and we will be fully clear with our Bill of Quantities. So we have the all-important question: what is the Bill of Quantities? Well, the Bill of Quantities is a list that gives brief descriptions, estimated quantities, and the cost of work comprised in a contract. You can see three key elements there: description, estimated quantity, and the cost of the work. These are the core items or the core components of any good bill of quantities. So here we have just a very simple layout of the Bill of Quantities, and for my good friend from SLDB who doesn't know, now she can start drawing it out and putting in all the descriptions. So as you can see, we mentioned the three components. You see the description, you see unit, you see quantity, rate, and we also have an item number. So here I'm going to give you a very simple item which you can likely see or see that type of item in a bill of quantities. You see the item number there, you see fill into structures, imported rock, and importantly you see a unit, and a little later on I will speak on why it's so important to pay attention to the unit. We have the quantity, we have a rate, and we have the amount. I need to mention also that the rate that you see there, some people might get a little confused when they see a rate. It is the rate for one unit of whatever the item it is. It is not the rate for the whole 5 cubic meters, but the rate for 1 cubic meter. Now to get the amount, you multiply the quantity by the rate and you get the amount. And that is what took us 300 years to get, and now we have gotten it in what, 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes? All right, so we're on a good track. Now, why is it that we had to come up with a bill of quantities? Excuse me. What is the whole point about it? Why do we need that, and why did so many years ago they develop it and we have it still going on? So we can see that it provides us with information on the quantities of work to enable tenders to be prepared efficiently and accurately. So when you have your work items and you have the quantity, you can now be able to work out the cost of that particular item because you have your quantity, and that is a very important thing. It provides a basis for assessing the value of works executed. So say you have a project. You have done 5 meters of drain, you have done 10 meters of road, 2 meters of retaining wall. How would you be able to assess that? Assess the cost of it if you want to do that for your own purposes. But with a bill of quantities, with items, detailed items, with quantity and rate, you can then achieve that. And afterwards, you can then go boasting and saying, I have executed 100,000, 200, 300,000 worth of work. All right? Then we have, it provides a detailed breakdown of the contract sum. And that would permit proper financial management, and the chief spoke about that as well. Financial management, getting all your things in order. If you were to just have a contract sum, like let's say 500,000, 2 million, 3 million, you don't know what amount is allocated for the foundation, what amount is allocated for the superstructure, or any particular component, you will be a little lost as to how to properly plan for that project. But by knowing the breakdown of this project, knowing the amounts that are allocated for each aspect of the project, you can then be able to put your little financial management in order, and you will not have a situation where as soon as you receive that advance payment, you go to SLDB and you say, hey, I need a loan to buy a brand new double cab. You will be able to do that financial, and I'm sure none of the contractors here do that. So we're talking about other people, not contractors in here. All right, so now that we have spoken a bit about the bill of quantities, let us take a look now at what a typical bill of quantity page might look like. So here we have 6 items displayed on that bill of quantities there. You can see the items, you can see the description. Maybe the description might seem a little strange, but you have to take a little time to read it through, to understand it. And having mentioned that, I want to state that especially for us at Ministry of Infrastructure, these descriptions, as much as sometimes I wish that was the case, it doesn't just fall out of the sky. We have a guidebook that would assist us in preparing these descriptions, the unit. So we do follow a book which is called the Civil Engineering Standard Method of Measurement. If you have a chance and you can get hold of one, that would be a very good thing for you. Because in addition to giving the descriptions, it also gives you a lot of the rules that apply to the different aspects of the work. And by you knowing what applies, because let's say, for example, it might tell you what is covered and what is not covered. So if you want to put a case forward for something you think that should have been covered in that item of work, you can then use that guidebook to learn that. So you can always see me afterwards if you want to know how you can get your hands on one. I can maybe assist you in that regard. But here I wanted to mention that, notice the units. You can have a variety of units, cubic meter, square meter. Now the reason I said you need to pay attention to your units, and it has happened to me. I mean, I will admit, maybe I shouldn't tell you the bad things that have happened to me, but sometimes I would read a description and I see, let's say for example, concrete. Now, because we are familiar with concrete being measured every time in cubic meter, you would just go ahead and put a cubic meter rate without reading it through, only to know that sometimes, depending on the thickness, concrete can be measured in square meters. So now I have put in a cubic meter rate for a square meter item where the rate would have been completely different. And that can put you off sometimes. These are the errors that we can have in bills of quantities, and it can really throw your price off. So you want to pay attention to it and ensure that you have it, the correct rate, the correct understanding of it, so that you can do it properly. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you have the quantity multiplied by the rate. That would give you your amount, and your total down in the bottom would just be addition of everything that you see here. That would give you your total on the bottom of the page. And usually in a sort of smaller type project with your one-page BOQ, that is the kind of scenario that you would have. Again, here we have another example. We see some other quantities. You see some other units. You see hectare and you see sum. That one I want to speak on a little. When you get an item with a sum, notice it does not have any quantity. It does not have any rate. These are items that you cannot really quantify. Like, for example, as we have there, demolition. You cannot really quantify it, so you just put a sum, just a lump sum, an amount for it. So do not look for quantity and rate. If you see sum, there is no error. You just place an amount. Now, something that we would typically include, especially at Ministry of Infrastructure, in our bill of quantities is general items. Now, in case you're wondering what it is, these are items. They normally cannot be quantified, but they are cost items that are required for the execution of the project. So these are the associated items. They do not form part of your permanent project, but they are very important. And a lot of the times people might miss out on some of these, and that would be a very big cost item to you as the contractor, something you may miss out on if it is not included in your project. So I don't know if I will still have a job if I were to say that, but if you see some items that would be of a cost to you and it is not included in your bill of quantities, maybe you can raise your hand and say to the engineer or the ministry official, what about this item, what about that item? Shouldn't that be included because it will be a cost to me? Do not just allow yourself to carry the cost. Am I correct, Chief, or is my job ended today? All right. Okay, I said it out in public. Chief is not going to dismiss me. Everyone here is going to support me. So that is important because a lot of the times, as I mentioned, some items that are not pertaining to the permanent works can be so costly, it might cost more than the permanent works that you're constructing, the concrete and the reinforcement. Sometimes to get that concrete and reinforcement to the location might be so costly, it costs more than the concrete itself. So you have to pay some attention to that. One item that is very important is insurance. You need to ensure that your insurance is covered. You pay the insurance company, they provide you with insurance. Now, with insurance, sometimes it may be a small enough project that the risk of anything happening is not that high, although something can always happen no matter how small the project is, but you may see some smaller projects not having insurance because the risk factor is not so much of a significant item. Then you can have testing of materials. When the minister spoke, he mentioned quality control. This is one of the ways we ensure quality control, by carrying out tests. So you can have tests for fill material aggregates, a variety of tests. And at the Ministry of Infrastructure, especially for our road projects, we want to be carrying out all the relevant tests because this is how you ensure that you can get a good quality product. So you can have a variety of items that you can test on, everything that is necessary. You can test the materials and you can also test the works as well. And here we can see we have some of the items. You can test the fill layer, the sub-base layer, the base course, not only the material component, but a compaction test. We can do that as well to ensure that you have good enough quality. Now here, as I mentioned about the BOQ over 200, 300 years, I don't know if you can see it clearly. Sometimes that's the whole intention, for you not to see the BOQ too clearly, and we can escape with a lot of things. Okay, not us, not in St. Lucia, maybe some other country. So this is what maybe a typical one-page bill of quantities might look like. And just for your sake here today, because I am not one of those vaguely quantity surveyors, I have blown up a small section of it so that you can see how the general items relate in the bill of quantities. Notice that for the general items, these are only some items. They are not really items that you can quantify, so we only have them as a sum, and based on your information, based on the cost that it is going to be to you, you will be able to place your amount there. So you can see testing of materials, you see temporary works, you see traffic regulations, especially if you're working on the road, you see cofferdam, and so many items we can have. All the items that are relevant to your project, you can have it placed there so that you can get paid for it because you will be going through that cost. Now, an important item I want to discuss, and let me just try to go quickly as my time is going by. Yes, contingency. Now, what is that contingency? It is a reserved amount of money set aside to cover unexpected cost. Contrary to what some people, of course, I'm not speaking about our contractors here, what some other contractors think, the contingency is just there to give to me, the contractor, once I have finished the project. Some people believe that. It is a reserve. It does not belong to the contractor. It belongs to the client for if in case there is the need to carry out maybe some extra items, some extra work items, something that was not thought of when the project was created, you now have a reserve that you can use for that. And maybe SLDB might not like to hear that too much, but you would use that reserve instead of going to SLDB for a loan to fund it. So, okay, I'll come back with something nice for you, SLDB, later on. Yeah. So that is very important. Now, the contingency sum, if it is not used, it is not paid to the contractor. That is important to note. Whenever you don't use that contingency sum, we cannot pay to the contractor. It would return to the client, and you now, contractor, have to be able to budget properly so that you do not account for the contingency thinking that you will receive it to be able to pay the insurance on that brand new double cab, and you end up not getting it. So by proper planning, you avoid these things. Now we also want to talk about provisional sum, which is like a cousin to contingency. The provisional sum, again, you might see it in your bill of quantities, and it is an estimated allowance for works that are not fully defined, works we don't have a full grasp of. We will put in a provisional sum in there in the BOQ, and again, if the provisional sum is used, then the contractor would submit a bill for it, and he would get paid for it. You might not get paid the whole amount, but you will get paid what you spent on that particular item. And if it is not used, then it does not get paid to the contractor. So you as a contractor need to go through your BOQ carefully, your bill of quantities, carefully to allocate or to locate these items in the BOQ which may not belong to you, or which you might not get these items paid, because it might be one, a provisional sum, or it might be a contingency. All right, now I just want to talk briefly about value-added tax. You would see that again if you're a registered tax collector, you would see VAT appearing in your contract. Again, it is paid to you, and you would have to rectify that with the tax office. So here again, we have another example of a bill of quantities, a completed one, and I just want to point out some of those key items that we mentioned. The provisional sum, you see it right there. You see the amount there, so this is how it would look in a bill of quantities. You see the contingency entered right there, and you see the VAT entered there. So this is a typical one. Again, you do not see the fee that is charged by SLDB, because that fee is so small we do not even put it in the bill of quantities. So feel free to approach SLDB anytime that you need to. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I come to the end of my presentation. I don't know if we'll be taking questions now or later. All right, the host will let us know. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Sepal, you have redeemed yourself with that last part. On behalf of SLDB, we thank you. Now, yes. So now we will actually take a break, and at this time we will ask for the Honorable Minister as well as the other presenters to kindly raise from their seats, and I will give you further instructions as to what we're going to do now. Minister? So we're going a bit off schedule, but I like to keep you all on your feet because it's contractors I'm dealing with, yeah? You like to keep us on our feet, so this time it's the reverse. Now, what we're going to do now is step out for our morning break, and to your direct left, my right, you will see a tent. Under that tent is where all our contractors, SLDB staff members, as well as employees of the ministry will go. When you step outside, for those of you who are VIP, If you are unsure if you are VIP, granted we're all VIP, but if you're unsure, there will be a delegate to confirm if you are or are not. When you step outside for our specially invited guests, our board of directors, our managing director, and our senior members of the ministry, you will proceed to your right as you step outside. This will be a very quick break, ladies and gentlemen, about 5 minutes. And if you are not in the mood to go for a break, we will now at this time take any persons who are interested in signing up for the e-procurement not policy, but the e-procurement exercise as it relates to the ministry, or if you have any trouble signing up, or if you need any troubleshooting to know what to do and where to go on the platform, you can revert back to where you initially came in, the main entrance. We have a representative from the ministry there to assist you. So your 5 minutes starts now. When you hear my voice, and as well as SLDB staff signaling you, we will return for the continuation of our program.